I'll defend her. The words sliced through the courtroom like a lightning strike. Every head turned. The judge's pen stopped mid-stroke. The reporters lowered their cameras. A tall black man stood just inside the courtroom door, gripping a mop. Water still dripped from the end of it, forming a small trail across the polished marble floor. A moment of dead silence. Then came the laughter. From the gallery, a voice sneered, "You lost, Janitor? This ain't your courtroom." Someone else chuckled. "Maybe he's here to clean up her mess." The man didn't move. He stood straight, eyes locked on the bench. The bailiff stepped forward quickly. "Sir, you need to leave now," I said. The man repeated louder, "I will defend her." "Hi, my name is Malik. If you believe stories like this need to be heard, please hit like and subscribe right now. Your support helps us shine a light on real injustice." Whispers and gasps rippled through the courtroom like a wave. Every lawyer, juror, and observer turned to see who had the nerve to say that. At the defense table, the white woman in the navy suit slowly turned. Olivia Haynes, billionaire CEO, accused of federal fraud. Her expression was unreadable until she saw his face. "You?" she said under her breath. "You're just the janitor." He nodded, calmly. "Yes, ma'am. I clean your offices. I empty your trash. But today, I'm the only one standing between you and the lie that's about to bury you." The prosecutor, a white man in a $1,000 suit, burst out laughing. "Your Honor, I hope this is a joke. Are we letting custodial staff argue federal law now?" But the judge didn't laugh. He adjusted his glasses and looked directly at the man with the mop. "What's your name, son?" "Malik Evans," the man replied clearly. "And I know exactly what they're doing to her, because I saw it coming." The courtroom held its breath. He was just the janitor. And yet, in that moment, no one dared speak over him. The courtroom was still frozen when Malik slowly stepped forward. The mop made a dull tap on the marble as he moved toward the defense table, but he didn't let go of it. He held it like a badge, like a reminder of everything they thought he was. The bailiff hesitated, unsure whether to stop him. The judge hadn't spoken. No one had. Olivia stared, her face tight with confusion. She had passed this man 100 times in the halls of her company. She had nodded at him once, maybe twice. Never spoke, never looked. He had always just been there, cleaning, invisible. 3 years Malik Evans had worked at Stormteca's headquarters. 3 years of emptying trash, polishing glass walls, and staying out of the way. Every morning at 6 a.m. he clocked in. Every night after everyone left, he swept the same floors the executives walked on like gods. He knew their habits, their gossip, the way they spoke behind closed doors. Most never even learned his name, especially not her, Olivia Haynes. He had watched her rise, watched her build Stormtec into a powerhouse. And then he'd watched the vultures close in. The whispers, the meetings, the sudden lawsuit that accused her of fraud and forgery. He had seen it long before the court ever did. But no one saw him. He was just the janitor. Until today. "I know I don't belong in this room," Malik said. His voice steady but loud enough for the jury to hear. "Not by their standards. But I've worked in that company longer than half the men who signed those indictments. I've watched what happened, up close." The prosecutor rolled his eyes. "We're not here for janitorial opinions, Mr. Evans." Malik ignored him. "I went to Howard Law. 2 years. Top of my class. Until my wife got sick." His eyes flicked to the jury, then to Olivia, who blinked, still processing. "Stage 4. Aggressive. We didn't have insurance that could cover all of it. I dropped out to take care of her. She passed away 11 months later." He paused. The courtroom was dead silent again. "I needed a job, so I cleaned. That's what people do. They survive. And now you want to play lawyer?" The prosecutor scoffed. "No, sir," Malik replied calmly. "I don't want to play anything. But I'm not going to watch a woman go down for something she didn't do just because her lawyer ran and the wolves smelled blood. The judge leaned forward, finally speaking. Miss Haynes, your attorney of record is absent. Do you object to this man speaking on your behalf temporarily? Olivia hesitated. She looked at the empty chair beside her. Then at Malik. Let him speak. The judge nodded slowly. Mr. Evans, you have 5 minutes. Make it count. Malik stepped up to the table and placed the mop gently on the floor. Then he opened his binder. Malik's hands moved with quiet certainty as he opened the binder. Color-coded tabs stuck out from the pages, each one neatly labeled. The judge raised an eyebrow. The prosecutor folded his arms and leaned back in his chair, ready to be entertained. Malik didn't look at anyone. He flipped to the first section. On March 7th, Stormtech was accused of falsifying a digital amendment to a contract with Ravenmark Capital, he said clearly, projecting his voice toward the jury. The prosecution claims that document originated from Miss Haynes' office in New York. He glanced up. That's false. A low murmur rippled through the gallery. The prosecutor immediately rose. Objection. This man isn't qualified. The judge cut him off. You gave him 5 minutes. Let him speak. Malik turned another page. I reviewed the metadata of the digital file. The document wasn't created in New York. It came from an IP address registered in Zurich, Switzerland. Specifically, a server belonging to Ultros Holdings, a known competitor of Stormtech. The words hit the courtroom like a dropped microphone. The prosecutor's smug grin wavered. Are we really going to entertain the tech opinions of a janitor? Malik didn't blink. I worked IT part-time before law school, and I had that metadata verified by an independent cybersecurity expert, whose signed affidavit is here. He slid a plastic sleeve from the binder and placed it on the table. The judge leaned in. The prosecutor laughed dryly. So we're trusting this janitor's evidence now? Next thing he'll tell us is he runs a law firm from the broom closet. A few people chuckled. But not Olivia. She was watching Malik now, really watching. And for the first time, her eyes showed something other than confusion or embarrassment. They showed fear. Not of him. Of what he might be right about. Mr. Evans, the judge said slowly. What exactly are you suggesting? Malik looked directly at him. I'm saying someone forged that contract to make it look like Miss Haynes was behind it. Someone who had access to her digital signature and knew how to plant it just far enough away that it wouldn't be questioned. And you have proof? I have patterns of access logs, deleted backups, internal movements by one particular employee who had both motive and access. Who? The prosecutor snapped. Malik turned a page. Paul Temple, he said simply. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. She sat back, stunned. The prosecutor looked blindsided. That's absurd. Paul's been her assistant for 3 years, Malik finished for him. Just like me. He closed the binder. And unlike you, I was watching. The gallery went silent. The judge looked unsettled. The prosecutor's mouth hung open. Olivia couldn't speak. Malik didn't move. He just stood there, taller than he'd ever seemed before, without raising his voice, without pointing fingers. Just a black janitor, exposing what no one else saw. If you're still watching, drop a comment below. What would you do in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that matter. Malik didn't flinch when he said the name. Paul Temple. The courtroom shifted. Even those who had come only to spectate leaned forward in their seats. The prosecutor glanced at Olivia, expecting her to deny it, to laugh, to dismiss it. But she didn't. She looked like someone had yanked the ground out from under her. I'm not accusing without proof, Malik continued, steady as ever. I found emails between Paul Temple and an external contact registered through a Zurich-based server. I've traced the IP. It's connected to a shell company owned by Ultros Holdings. The judge raised an eyebrow. Malik turned to the next page. The language in the document, legal formatting, clause structure, even the contract headers, it doesn't match Stormtech's internal templates. But it does match templates used by European subsidiaries of Altro's holdings. He let that sit for a moment, then added, which Mr. Temple has flown to 3 times this year. The prosecutor's voice rose, more irritated than confident now. You're making wild claims without solid verification. I've already submitted those findings to an independent cybersecurity analyst, Malik replied. The report is time-stamped, signed, and includes verification trails. He laid the document down in front of the judge. You expect us to believe a janitor pulled off a full forensic investigation? The prosecutor scoffed. I don't expect you to believe anything, Malik said. I expect you to check it yourself. Isn't that your job? The judge didn't smile, but he did glance toward the court's IT team sitting quietly in the back. Verify that metadata and report, he instructed. Start now. We'll recess for 1 hour. The courtroom buzzed as people whispered behind cupped hands. The judge banged his gavel once and stood, retreating to chambers. As the bailiff announced recess, the gallery erupted with motion. Reporters rushed to file early stories. Jurors stood stiffly. Olivia sat frozen. Malik didn't move. He turned to leave the table, but not before noticing the prosecutor glaring at him hard. Marshall Kane, lead counsel, undefeated in 6 major cases, was now staring down a janitor like he'd just been stabbed in the chest. You got lucky, he muttered, stepping in Malik's path. That's all this is. Malik met his eyes calmly. No, Mr. Kane. Luck is pretending the truth doesn't matter. I'm just showing what's already been there. He walked away slowly, mop still by his side. Behind him, the courtroom was no longer laughing. They were watching, closely, and not one of them saw a janitor anymore. The hallway outside the courtroom smelled faintly of old paper and coffee. Malik sat alone on a wooden bench, binder resting on his lap. His hands were still, but his mind was racing. He remembered the night it all began. 3 months ago, a Friday. The office was empty. Everyone had left for the weekend. Malik was finishing his last floor when he passed by Olivia's office. The trash bin just outside her door had papers spilling out. Not shredded, not even crumpled. Just left there exposed. That wasn't normal. He hesitated, then knelt. The top page was stamped, confidential. It was a contract amendment, Ravenmark and Stormtech, dated just 1 day before the lawsuit was filed. His eyes scanned it once, then again. The signature looked like Olivia's, but the metadata in the small print of the PDF footer showed a foreign IP address. He had no idea what it meant yet, but something felt off. That night, he took the document home in a folder tucked under his arm. He opened his old laptop, dusty, slow, but still working, and began digging. Every night after work, he studied. He compared contract language. He downloaded company records. He even called an old friend from law school, Reggie Holmes, now an investigative reporter in D.C. I need your help, Malik had said quietly. Still cleaning floors and chasing justice, huh? Reggie joked, but when Malik explained, his tone turned serious. This is big. Bigger than a lawsuit. If you're right, this is a setup. Together, they dug deeper. Paul Temple's name kept surfacing. Internal access logs, late-night emails, USB file transfers, travel records to Zurich, company card used at Altro's Holdings hotel partners. It was a web, and Malik had walked right into the center of it. But he wasn't scared. He was furious. Paul had always walked past Malik like he didn't exist, called him boss in a tone that didn't mean respect, dropped coffee cups on the floor like Malik was born to pick them up. And now Paul had nearly destroyed the same woman Malik had spent years quietly admiring for her discipline, her drive. The betrayal ran deep. He hadn't come forward earlier because he knew how this system worked. A black janitor? No one would listen. They'd laugh until he brought more than just suspicion. So he waited, collected everything. And now, inside that binder, he had the truth. He didn't want credit. He didn't want a title. He just wanted justice. Because for people like him, truth was all they had. The bailiff stepped out into the hallway. "They're ready." Malik stood, binder in hand. This time, he wasn't just returning to court. He was walking into a war zone, against power, status, and everything that had once kept him silent. Malik walked back into the courtroom with his shoulders squared, binder tight in his grip. This time, the silence was different. No laughter, no whispers, just tension thick enough to choke. Olivia sat straighter when she saw him. Her eyes weren't cold anymore. They were alert, curious, maybe even hopeful. The judge entered. "We've reviewed the technical report," he announced. "Mr. Evans' evidence is consistent with all verified data sources. We'll allow him to continue his statement." The prosecutor was already standing, voice sharp. "Your Honor, we can't keep pretending this janitor is a qualified legal expert." "I never claimed to be," Malik said calmly. "But I know how to read, how to research, and how to tell the truth." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Malik stepped forward, binder open. "As I said earlier, the document was not created from Stormtekka's servers. The email trail confirms Paul Temple's communication with Ultros Holdings prior to the amendment's creation. The motive is clear. Stormtek was a threat, and destroying Miss Haynes' reputation would open doors for their takeover." The prosecutor, Marshall Kane, slammed his hand on the desk. "Enough. We're letting emotions run this trial. This man is not credible." Malik turned to him, eyes calm but unshaken. "You want to talk credibility?" He took a breath. "I left law school in my second year. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because my wife was dying." The gallery fell silent again. She had stage 4 breast cancer. No family, no insurance, just me. I gave up my degree, my future, to take care of her until her last breath. And after that, I had a daughter to raise alone. He looked at the jury. "So yeah, I took a janitor job. Because it paid the rent. Because it let me be home at night. Because it gave me enough time to learn how to fight back, in case I ever needed to." Even the prosecutor was frozen now. Malik continued, "I don't want sympathy. I want you to understand why I came forward. I didn't wake up wanting to be some courtroom hero. I just couldn't stay quiet anymore. Not while someone innocent gets buried because the people with money and power decided they could." The judge leaned forward, studying him. Malik walked to the bench and handed over the signed documents, the verified metadata, and the cybersecurity analyst's findings. "This is all independently reviewed. You don't have to believe me, but you should believe the facts." Marshall Kane sat back, jaw clenched. Malik turned to Olivia. "I've seen you work late. I've seen you hold this company together when nobody else could. I couldn't stand by and let them erase all of that." Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't speak. She didn't have to. Everyone in that courtroom knew something had shifted. The janitor just took control of the room. And for the first time in this trial, the truth had a voice they couldn't ignore. The jury filed in slowly, each face unreadable, each step echoing in the courtroom like a ticking clock. Malik stood motionless, binder closed now, hands at his sides. He didn't look nervous. He looked ready. Olivia sat with her fingers laced tightly in front of her. She wasn't trembling, but she wasn't steady either. Marshall Kane sat rigid, eyes fixed on the jury foreperson like he could bend her decision with his stare. The judge cleared his throat. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" A middle-aged black woman stood from the front row of jurors, voice firm. "Yes, Your Honor. We have." She unfolded the slip of paper, glanced once at Olivia, then read, "We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty on all counts." Gasps. Silence. Then applause erupted. Olivia sat back hard in her chair, lips parted, eyes wide in disbelief. She turned to look at Malik, but he wasn't smiling. He just nodded once, like a man who'd carried a mountain and finally set it down. Marshal Kane didn't move. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. The defeat was too much to process. The judge lifted his gavel but paused. Before we adjourn, I'd like to say something. He turned to Malik. Mr. Evans, you reminded this court that the truth doesn't care about status or job titles. You've done more than most trained lawyers could ever dream. This courtroom owes you respect. Another round of applause followed. Olivia stood slowly and walked over to Malik. She looked him in the eye, her voice soft but clear. You didn't just save my company. You saved me. Malik nodded, but before he could respond, a small voice came from the gallery. Daddy! His daughter, Emma, just 9 years old, ran down the aisle and threw her arms around his waist. Malik dropped to his knees and hugged her tight, the binder falling to the floor beside him. Olivia smiled through misty eyes. She's beautiful. She's everything, Malik said, voice cracking for the first time. Olivia glanced toward her own legal team, what was left of it, and then back to Malik. Stormtech needs people like you. I want you to join us, not as staff, as counsel, head of ethics, whatever title you want. Just don't go back to being invisible. Malik looked around the room, at the judge, the jury, the people who had once laughed at him and now stared with respect. He turned to his daughter. What do you think, Emma? Should Daddy take the job? She nodded eagerly. Only if they treat you right. Olivia laughed. That's non-negotiable. Malik smiled, and for the first time in years, it wasn't a quiet, polite smile. It was real. As the courtroom emptied, and sunlight poured through the tall windows, Malik stood tall, not as a janitor, not as a background shadow, but as the man who spoke when silence was safer, who fought when quitting was easier, and who proved, in front of the world, that justice doesn't wear a suit. Sometimes, it holds a mop. If you believe in second chances and breaking barriers, share this story. To viewers in the USA, UK, and Canada, your voice matters. Together, we can change the world.